The Street Fighter 6 honeymoon is over, but it's okay. Basically, every new fighting game goes through this phase, and the way I knew, because I already started seeing the seeds of discontent. Some top players were like, this game is so scrubby compared to Street Fighter 5, which is something, while I said I thought I would not see this ever, it was inevitable. Truly now, the game's been out since June, and the last phase, because the first phase is always, this game is scrubbier than the last game. The actual honeymoon period of a new fighting game is over, is when the villains of the game are established. I'm not talking about players, I'm talking about characters. Why do I have any say in this? Because I've been in this many times. I play a lot of new fighting games in my fighting game career. I was there when BlazBlue was new, when Persona 4 Arena was new, when Guilty Gear Xrd was new, when Dragon Ball FighterZ was new, and more recently when Guilty Gear Strive was new. It's a pretty common cycle in fighting games. Who are the villains of Street Fighter 6? Well, there two. And yesterday I actually went on Twitter to actually ask, like, hey, why do these characters get hated on, but these characters, who I also consider, and I've also heard many people say are very strong, get the pass? So the characters I want to look at are JP and Ken. And I actually think this is pretty interesting, because in Guilty Gear Strive, there was one character at launch that made everyone lose their mind, despite there being other villains. In my opinion, it was Soul Bad Guy, which is Shoto. So Ken falls in line with this, but Street Fighter 6 is a little bit more unique because, again, there's JP and Ken. So I actually really like this. So Ken is like the all-arounder Shoto. So when a new game comes out and everyone hates on this character, they're usually like the character's overtuned, their combos are too good, their pressure is too good, their corner carry is too good, but it may not necessarily be that it's too good, because again, we're gamers, so we're not good at actually being specific about what we mean. We just say things are broken very easily, right? So usually when it's a Shoto that is in the villain slot, it's just things are a little, just a tinge, just bloop, just a tinge, bloop. So in Ken's case, it really is about like how he plays the mid-range, his corner carry ability, and of course, he's a Shoto, so a lot of people are playing Ken, and he performs really well. Apparently, Ken is the character that has qualified the most for Capcom Cup so far, and the character that has the most players over 2,000 MMR in the Masters League that ranked mode has in Street Fighter 6. Now, JP is another interesting one, because he's on the other side. JP invokes a discussion that I greatly enjoy, actually. A long time ago in Guilty Gear Xrd, and this probably might have come up in other games, people whispered, and I shared these whispers too, about how certain characters don't actually play the game. So what do I mean? Most fighting games have a structure of characters do XYZ by default. A lot of people complain about how when a new fighting game comes out, the rosters aren't that big. Like, it's uncommon to see a roster of more than like 15 characters in a new game, and people usually complain about it. They're like, well, the old game had like 40 characters, so why does the new game have 15? Usually the reason why, at least from a player perspective, is the system is revamped and new, and they have to figure out how to put characters in that system, especially if it's a long-running series like Street Fighter, like Guilty Gear. Speaking of which, Mortal Kombat is coming out pretty soon, so Mortal Kombat would be another one. Then they have to figure out how to put classic characters that have appeared in multiple games in this new system, which could be pretty difficult. So even though there's really good characters and not so good characters, everyone kind of interacts with the system a specific way, and there are usually recurring patterns that you would see in characters. So an old school one I'll use is like BlazBlue. So after, I want to say, the second version of BlazBlue Continuum Shift, one thing we started to see in many Arxis games was when you hit someone mid-screen, you don't get big combos unless you get a big slow hit, and then when you hit someone in the corner, it's party time. So characters that hit you anywhere and it was party time, we were like, this is stupid, this is broken, like this is not what other characters do. Another example of this, also actually from Arxis games, is characters that are playing an old version of the game. I use the story a lot. I played Kokonoe for a while in BlazBlue. When she came out, one of the things that was kind of odd about her was that she had a lot of stuff that was prevalent in older versions of the game, but were removed in the current version of the game. If you want a more recent version of this, you would think about a character like Valio from Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. The game was out for like 6 months. a patch came out, they called it the Season 2 Pass. Everything gets nerfed. Belial has all the old stuff. Everyone goes, what, why would you do this? Everyone switches to Belial. So back to JP then. The big thing about JP is that one, he's a new character to a long-running franchise. So there are some cases where there are players like myself who hop between franchise. So like I'm a anime fighting game player. I play a lot of games where Arc System works, but not only Arc System works, right? But because of this, I tend to switch games every like three or 4 years, kind of depending on what's going on. But if you're playing games like Tekken, Street Fighter, you'll be playing these games for much longer. Street Fighter V was out for, I want to say, 7 or 8 years before they updated to Street Fighter 6. Not only that, but Street Fighter itself has been out since like 1992 or something, so people have a pretty good idea of how to fight Guile, how to fight Chun-Li, how to fight Honda, how to fight T-Hawk, and characters like that. One thing I actually identified going into Guilty Gear was like, oh, I should actually play like a new character. The original character I wanted to play was Ramathal, because I learned, hey, I could catch up with all the old heads by playing a new character that didn't know how to fight. Little did I know that I'd meet a character named Milia, and I'd have a great time. So JP is kind of this character because he's a new character, so there's not long developed strategies. People are still learning how to fight him, and to be fair to them, I do kind of agree. I saw a funny video from Nemo where he said Guilty Gear players know how to fight JP, and I know what he's saying because we have so much of that character. The character that's like good in mid-range because they have good pokes, but then they're good at zoning you, but then they have also really good mix-ups and maybe unusual mix-ups for the game. And the last little sprinkle that if you haven't played an anime fighter, you may not be familiar with this. The pain of finally getting in on the zoner. And they have like a good reversal on top of that because JP has the OD amnesia, which I think that's the thing that really sets people off, is that it's not even like his neutral. Like there's plenty of characters with good neutral in Street Fighter, right? I mean, Guile's right there. I was pretty surprised that people were like cool with Guile. I heard a lot of Guile's kind of overrated. Guile can't like cancel off his long poke, so he's free to drive impact. I asked a bunch of people how they were feeling about the game. For JP, it's not only you get in and he uses the EX move and then he combos you into a setup, dirty setups. I've seen really dirty setups. So people say he doesn't play core Street Fighter. I mean, he's doing stuff that for me, I'm like, I've seen this in many games, many other non-Street Fighter games. But if you only played SF, one thing that people tend to tout is, and by the way, to be fair, people do this for all games. what I'm about to say, people do this for all fighting games. But there's like a real version of the game. Sometimes I still grapple with this myself because I understand like the longer the game is out, any fighting game is out, the more creative they get with character designs, and the more likely there will be a character that sits kind of outside what is considered the norm or standard of a fighting game. We even call characters standard characters. So if you talk about Strive, we have characters like Soul Kai, but also like we put like Baiken in there. We low-key put like Chip in there or Leo Whitefang in there, in that they all kind of are good at mid-range. They all kind of like box you in a certain way. They all move in a certain way, right? As opposed to characters like Jacko, who hits the minions, who's weird, or like Gold Lewis, who's like a big body, but like he's fast at the same time and has a bunch of powerful moves. And I mean, Street Fighter has this as well, but for people, JP probably gets the extra hate because of how unusual he is for a Street Fighter game. That being said, there's another war going on, which is the downplay war, right? So the war of people saying, yeah, their character is good, but this other character is kind of better. I think JP is just going to take strays from this because no matter what is the actual truth, you know, because it's going to be hard for people to agree to. It's still pretty early in Street Fighter 6's life. EVO was only 2 months after the game. Oh, yeah, 2 months after the game's release, so still pretty early in the game's life. So no matter what we end up saying about the game when we look back at it like a year from now or a couple years from now, the character that's definitely going to catch the most strays is the character that's not the standard character, right? So what does this mean for you? You're going to see top players, you know, longtime community members going back and forth about this, but what does this mean for you, the viewer, the casual player of Street Fighter 6, the person who's kind of like starting to really get into it, maybe grand ranked? Honestly, it doesn't matter who the true villain character is. When this honeymoon phase is kind of over, the important thing is what you can tolerate. I've talked about this before, actually, honestly, when Strive came out, and I'm pretty sure I will have to go through this every time a new fighting game comes out that I decide to play some. But if you think the game is fun, it doesn't matter how broken people say JP is. If you think the game is fun, it doesn't matter how BS people say Ken is. If you're not willing to deal with it, though, because that's the thing. They make the characters to be strong, they make the characters to be polarizing, they make the characters to appeal to certain aspects of people, between the aesthetics of the character, the playstyles of the character, the inputs of the character, everything. As long as there's something that you enjoy in the game, it's fine. It's fine, the game's fun, and it's whatever. If you get bothered so much by Ken and JP, and to a lesser extent, like Luke, Guile, Jury, and other characters that people consider are strong, your main options are try to find a character that you really, really like, switch to one of those characters if you think they're so crazy or dumb, or the last thing is if it's really driving you crazy, don't play. The good news is, I do feel like since Street Fighter was a pretty big release, I don't see so much doom and gloom. It's actually not as much. During Strive's release, man, I'm not gonna lie, we went through it, but Guilty Gear is a pretty unique community, so I was kind of expecting it. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I really just wanted to touch on this because I saw the last phase, like before like it becomes its own game, you know, because everyone tried Street Fighter 6, everyone hopped in, people are making up their minds whether to spend time on it or not spend time on it. I already knew I was going to be casual in this game, so I mean, I'm playing Honda, right? If I was serious, I'd play characters like Jury or Guile or like Ken or something like that. But let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. So also all the patrons on Patreon, and like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.